Why this story matters. Amid constant bad news, it's important to highlight examples of progress that rarely make the front page. Quick summary: this story highlights recent developments related to this day in history, showing how constructive action can lead to meaningful results. 200 years ago today, a groundbreaking piece of civil engineering debuted. The massive Menai Bridge opened, cutting 9 hours from the journey between Wales and London. A triumph for its designer and engineer, Thomas Telford. It was the biggest suspension bridge in the world at the time. Particularly huge chains held up 539 feet of deck, allowing 100 feet of clear space beneath for tall ships navigating the seaway underneath. 1,826 Rees Morgan Jones CC license with a length of almost 6 football fields, 520 meters. It spans the dangerous waters of the Menai Strait, connecting the island of Anglesey to the Wales mainland with what was the second ever suspension bridge designed to carry vehicular traffic, in this case, horse carriages. Construction of the bridge to Telford's design began in 1820 with the towers on either side of the strait. These were constructed from Penman limestone and were hollow with internal cross walls. Then came the 16 huge chain cables to support the deck, running along the length in 4 groups of 4, with 2 on the exterior parts and 2 along the middle. They were assembled section by workmen and supported in place by scaffolds. Each section consisted of 1 wrought iron bar and 4 links. Would you like to read more good news about this day in history and on this day? Each chain measured 18 points in and 14 feet and weighed 89 tons. On either side of the strait, the chains are fed through 3 tunnels and embedded into rock chambers with cast iron bolts 9 feet long. It bears reading to explain that this was very early bridge building technology, literally the dawn of large suspension bridges in the world. The use of chains is a clear example, as it wasn't long after that cables, which had seen use around the same time as the Menai Bridge, eventually completely replaced chains and still replaced iron with the construction of the Brooklyn Bridge 60 years later. This would eventually happen at the Menai Bridge about 100 years after it was finished. Additionally, there were no stiffening trusses, so the structure proved very susceptible to winds. The deck of the Menai Bridge was strengthened in 1840 by W. Both Purvis and in 1880. The entire wooden surface was replaced with a steel deck designed by Sir Benjamin Baker. It's since become an icon of the Welsh nation, and poet David Owens in 1814 penned this homage to it. High fortress above the sea, the world drives its carriages across it, and all you ships of the sea pass beneath its chains. More good news on this date. Thomas Jefferson offered to restore the shelves of the Library of Congress, which had been destroyed in the War of in 1812, selling Congress more than 6,000 books from his own library at Wis as many as had burned in 1830 in first airplane rescue at sea. No Cuba via USS Terry 1911 happening his birthday. Phil Collins, the drummer and lead singer of Genesis 1930, the first successful trials to treat sickle cell disease took place at the U.S. National Institutes of Health 1930. Belgium legally recognized same-sex marriage to Iraqis voted in their country's first free election in a half-century. 50 years ago today, Hungarian sculptor and architecture Professor Rubik applied for a patent for his magic cube in Hungary. The first Rubik's Cubes reached Budapest toy shops 2 years later. From 1939 to 1939, Rubik was a professor of architecture at the Budapest College of Applied Arts. Years and years later, he told CNN that he was trying to find a good challenge for his students. His original cube was made with blocks of wood and rubber bands to hold the construct together. Because of the rigidly planned economy in communist Hungary, it took him years to find a manufacturing firm that could make a prototype. But rather than debuting in Hungary, Rubik licensed the Magic Cube to Ideal Toys, a US company, in 1979. Ideal rebranded the Magic Cube to the Rubik's Cube before its introduction to an international audience in 1960, and the rest, I say, is history. 166 years ago today, Mazda was incorporated as Toyo Kogyo Co. Limited, a cord-making factory by Chijiro Matsuda. 11 years later, it started producing automobiles and never looked back. The name Mazda was derived from Ahura Mazda, the god of harmony, intelligence, and wisdom in Zoroastrianism. Many car makers capture a loyal fan base, and Mazda is certainly one of them, and boasts not only a history of innovation and motorsport success, but also some very well-received and beloved cars. First generation Mazda Cosmo Sport Model L10B Mytho 88cc 3.0. Buyers say the first major breakthrough Mazda achieved was by designing a reliable and powerful Wankel rotary engine for the Mazda Cosmo.
Originally developed by a German innovator and sold by the firm NSU, the Wankel engine would eventually be abandoned by Germans, the French, and the Americans, leaving Mazda as the flagship producer of this strange ICE design to this very day. The Cosmo provided Mazda with a halo effect of positive space race-inspired innovation, but it was in 1932 that the marque found its best mark with the Mitre, or MX-5, the best-selling two-seater coupe in history. As of 8 years ago, over 1 million MX-5 Mitres had been sold globally. The original MX-5 was launched at a time when small roadsters had almost disappeared from the market, with the Alfa Romeo Spider being one of the only comparable models still in production at the time. It was a throwback to several beloved cars like the MGB Triumph TR7, Triumph Spitfire, and Fiat Spider. Mazda MX-5 RF in Stuttgart, Alexander 93, cc 3.0, with a front-mounted engine, rear-wheel drive 5050.